which is, he says, justice is the advantage of the stronger. So I'll talk a little bit about this interchange. Now, Socrates has turned around, as he pointed out, and said, okay, Thrasymachus, you tell me what virtue is. Or sorry, what justice is. And we actually see a quite funny moment, because I think what Plato is trying to highlight here is kind of the contrary motives of sophists. On the one hand, they are trying to please crowds, that's what they're so good at, they're vain. And on the other hand, they work for money. And so we get a nice little conflict right away, because Thrasymachus at first won't tell them. He won't tell them. He won't say what justice. And he says that Socrates is going to have to pay a fine in order to find out what justice. At the same time, though, Thrasymachus is rather vain. He really wants to show off. Right? He did genuinely get angry at Socrates just a minute ago, and he thinks that he has the right answer to this question. And he wants to tell everybody what the answer is. So he's got kind of these mixed motives. On the one hand, he expects to get paid for his wisdom. He's about to say something that's a part of his craft. He's about to divulge trade secrets. He wants money for it. On the other hand, he wants to show off. And of course, Socrates is well aware of what's going on in the mixed motivation. So he just kind of taunts him a little bit and says, I'm poor, please, we'll pay if we have to, say some of his friends. But Thrasymachus is so desperate and so impatient to show off his wisdom that he ends up giving his answer anyway, for free. But he gives his answer in this very simple way. He says, or enigmatic way. He says, justice is the advantage of the stronger. Now, Socrates takes this and responds to this with a rather amusing reply. He says, oh, I see. So stronger, right? So strong people eat meat. And meat is good for them. It's advantageous to them. So meat is advantageous to the stronger. So justice is meat. Well, it's a ridiculous reply. And clearly, Socrates doesn't think Thrasymachus means that. You can almost hear Thrasymachus spit. He's so upset. And he will go on to explain his position more clearly after being challenged with this meat example. But there's something important philosophically about what's going on here with the meat. And what is going on here is the distinction between what it is that Thrasymachus is doing with his witty enigma and Socrates is trying to do with his definitions or forms. Because the witty enigma doesn't clarify anything. You can say it in one little phrase and it could mean anything. The beef definition, well, clearly not what Thrasymachus meant, fits perfectly well with what he actually said. Whereas a proper definition, like we were looking for in the Euthyphro, or what they're looking for in the Republic, a proper definition will be clear. It will be something that when you have it, you'll be able to transmit it. So it looks like Thrasymachus is giving a definition or an account of what justice is, but really he's giving a kind of clever little phrase. And it's very different from the kind of thing that Socrates is trying to do, which is trying to define things in a clear, rational way. So there's an important philosophical point to that meat thing. So now we get justice. I guess we'll call this Thrasymachus' second definition, although strictly speaking it's the a clarification of the first definition. And Thrasymachus is so angered by Socrates, he gives up on his looking for pay and gives us what he means. And here's what he says. Justice is the advantage of the stronger, because justice is obeying the rules set out by the stronger. So this is kind of a clarification of the first definition. We'll call it a second one so we can keep meat one separate. And finally we get a definition that makes sense. It's the advantage of the stronger because justice is obeying the rules set out by the stronger. Why is this the case? Well, societies have laws and customs. And no new words yet today. But nomos is the word for law and custom. It's kind of a curious word because we have a real distinction between these two. In Greece, they did have a distinction in thought, but in words they didn't. And you had the nomos, which was promulgated by the government, and you also have the customs that are kind of developed around. Now, what Thrasymachus says is that these nomoi, that's the plural, these nomoi, or laws, were put in place by rulers, who put in place laws that were to their own advantage. So whether it's a democracy, or an aristocracy, or a monarchy, it doesn't matter. The laws were put in place by the stronger for their own advantage. Next, we call people just because they follow the laws and conventions or customs of the society. So step one to this argument, laws are put in place by the stronger. Number two, we call people just because they follow these laws and customs. What this means is that justice is actually to the advantage of the leaders, to the rule makers. They put those laws into place for their own benefit, and to follow those laws is to the advantage of the people who put those laws into play. Now, as a result, justice can't be called a virtue. This isn't a virtue, at least not in any normal sense. It's advantageous justice, sure, it is advantageous, but it's advantageous to the ruler. It's not advantageous to the person following the law. That person is a sucker. Justice is being a sucker, right? It's being someone who fell for the rules and conventions of the society that were put in place for someone else's benefit. So the person who is just is being exploited. And being exploited is not a positive character trait. It's a vice. It's not even a virtue. It's not the opposite of a virtue. It's a vice. So here he's actually really going against the discussion of Polemarchus and Socrates, as we saw multiple times. Part of the problem with something Polemarchus was saying was that it made justice out not to be a virtue. Whereas Thrasymachus is outright denying that justice is a virtue. Now, what are the presuppositions of this? We'll see a lot of the sort of the sophistic presuppositions that I talked about in the first lecture here. Well, one of the presuppositions here is cultural relativism, which is a very important stance of the sophists. Justice is whatever a society says it is. So, if a society says that something is just, it's just in that society. If society says something is legal, it's legal in that society. Justice is a purely descriptive term. It describes the conventions and rules in a society. There isn't some true justice that is normative, that earthly justice has to conform to, or something like that. There's just nothing like that. It is just to obey the law. And that's it. So it's purely